Would you like to introduce your name, course, and year?
Hi, so my name's James and I'm a first year mathematics student at the University of Warwick.
And would you like to say your hometown?
Well, I'm from Harlow in Essex originally, but I'm living in sunny Broxbourne right now, which is
Hey,
great.
so could you remind us of the course you're taking?
So I'm taking G100 mathematics, which is a pure mathematics 3-year Bachelor of Science. It's
And
really flexible. Yeah, it's a good course.
why did you choose your course?
So throughout my sixth form and my school, probably, I really struggled because lots of people seem to want to take humanities and social science subjects off to uni, which is kind of cool. But I sort of felt slightly different, and I wanted to be in an environment where there would be uh, lots of opportunity to mix with really analytical people, but also people who really love pure mathematics for the sake of mathematics. So there's like the applied side and there's the pure side. And I wanted to be sort of sitting in the middle of both of them, but in like a scientific background. And probably that's one of the reasons why I picked Warwick as one of my 5 choices, I think.
Okay, and what do you think of your course so far? So you said you just finished your first year. What do you think of your
Yeah.
first?
So it's tough, but it's good tough. um, I would say that I probably underestimated how hard I would have to work. It's really interesting actually when you go into like a maths degree at Warwick because it's obviously really competitive to get into. Um, and a lot of the people around me were being told for the first time that they weren't sort of the best at maths in the room. I don't know if that makes sense,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, but it's like a really big learning curve for some people. And luckily for me, I've never really been the best at maths in the room, so it kind of fit my persona. But I would say that going from not struggling with any maths at all you've done at A level to struggling with maths is probably the most difficult part of the course, aside from like deadlines and like extra study stuff, you know.
Okay. Did you come from a sixth form or college background?
So I came from a sixth form background, but it was a very small sixth form.
And what did you study for in sixth form?
So I did maths, further maths, physics, and geography as A-level subjects, and then I did an EPQ on the side. And you also have to take some entrance exams for Warwick. So I took the sixth form extension paper, step 1, 2, and 3. That probably means something to some people, but nothing to others.
So with the subjects you took for A level, did any of them help you with your course?
So I was expecting that physics would help me quite a bit, but it turns out that at the end of my, I wasn't really enjoying physics that much. So the flexibility of the Warwick course meant that I could sort of not have to worry about taking physics modules, which I quite liked. But I think the STEP and the EPQ really prepared me more than anything, probably more than the maths A level, to be honest. Excuse me.
And what do you think the best A level slash subjects are for your course?
Well, you have to take maths and further maths to do a maths degree. But other than that, I would say, even though it's not compulsory for most maths courses, doing something like STEP, MAT, or the TIMUA really helps solidify how university maths would work in your head. And studying complex ideas on your own sort of really helps you at uni. It's weird.
Okay, so if we go now to your university, could you remind us what university you're studying at?
Yeah, cool. So I'm studying at the University of Warwick, which is near Coventry in the Midlands.
And if we go into the best and worst things for your first year that you found about studying at Warwick, if we go, we'll start with the worst things.
Oh God. I'm gonna say disclaimer. I do quite like Warwick, but there are some big negatives.
Such as
I would say probably the biggest one and the one that frustrates me the most is older facilities. So Warwick was built in the 60s, which was an amazing time. We loved the 60s. The 60s was a great era, but libraries built in the 60s aren't great, especially in 2020. I'm not a big fan of the Warwick Library, but luckily for me, that didn't matter too much because the maths department has like a separate workroom. It's got separate like desk areas, and there's some books there, which meant that I could avoid the library. But I would say that there's also lots of sort of like nooks and crannies around campus. So if you want to sit down like and get your head in a book, you could always just go somewhere else. There's tons of cafes. I like working in cafes. I
Anything
lived
else?
in.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. I was just going to say I lived really far away from the uni as well, which was another thing. But at the same time, we also had lots of like facilities in our own little sort of mini campus, which made it feel like you were commuting, which was nice because it sort of cut the day in half.
So is there anything else bad about studying at Warwick, or is that pretty much it?
Um, I mean, it depends who you ask, really. I always think universities are a really individual choice. I like Warwick because there's loads of science students there, but I guess if you're going to study humanities at Warwick, it's probably quite frustrating because you all get lumped in like the same block, and you might get neglected a bit, which is kind of sad.
So if we go into like the best things about studying at Warwick.
Ooh. I would say that it's nice to be at a uni where everyone's tried really hard to get onto the maths course. I can't speak for all of the other courses, but it's really difficult to get on. And once you're there, everyone wants to be there, which is really nice. Sometimes when you're doing maths at A level, it's sort of classed as a weird facilitating subject, which is good, but it means that there's a lot of people in your classroom who might not necessarily enjoy maths in the way that you do, in the way that I do, which is quite frustrating. And the way that maths used to be taught at my sixth form meant that we were taught within like a maths class, but also within a maths further class, but they were separate, which meant that I was learning maths really slow, but further maths really fast. At Warwick, everything's fast, which I really like. Yeah.
Okay. So if we now go into, obviously you've been there for a year, where did you live for your first year of Warwick?
So I lived in halls. I lived in an area of the campus called Westwood Campus, and the halls there are Westwood halls.
And can you
It's
tell us
quite
some
nice.
ups and downs about living there? We'll start with the downs.
Okay, so one big down for me is asbestos, um, which is kind of it's not really a down when you think about it, but it means that there's lots of inspections inside your room, which is nice because it forces you to keep your room tidy. But on the other hand, if you don't like people coming in your room like once a month, it's kind of inconvenient. Also, it's a very old block that I was in. The blocks were built in the 50s, which is good because the rooms are big, but the ceilings are also kind of short and it feels like you're in a bit of a box. That's the
Okay.
room anyway.
And if we go into the best things about living there,
So one of the things I really liked was that we had like a common room downstairs, which I think is really cool because it means you can keep like anything social that you do separate from your kitchen, which is good because when you're living in a block that's really big like Warwick and you've got 20 people sharing a kitchen, the kitchens are messy anyways. If you're hosting like a party in there really late at night and you don't clean up and someone's got to like come out in the morning and do breakfast, it's not really sort of fair for them to have to go and use a kitchen that's got loads of drink in it.
from what you've
uh,
seen, what do you think the best Warwick accommodation is?
I don't know. Again, it depends what you like. Everyone always says that Bluebell is really nice accommodation, but I think that's because it's new more than anything. I always think the rooms are quite small with the ensuite in them, and it feels kind of stuffy in there. I honestly think Warwick's got quite a good range of accommodation because some of it's quite a lot of it's so old. You've got lots of different choices, which is really nice. But also because it was built as a campus, the accommodation is really consistent. So if you go to an older university in a city, the rooms are sometimes like oddly shaped, tall ceilings, small ceilings, heating problems. At Warwick, you don't get that, but you do still get the choice, if that makes sense.
Okay. So if we go into the Warwick area, could you tell us about the Warwick nightlife?
Yeah, I can tell you a bit about the Warwick nightlife. So I would say that the Warwick nightlife is probably split into three sort of separate places. So Warwick as a uni is in the middle of nowhere, and you've got the SU, which is a really good night out when you're in first year because you can walk to it and you can walk back.
That's
It's
what
really
the SU
cheap.
is, just for obviously people
So
who've never been to Warwick.
sorry, the SU is what we call our student union. So Warwick SU is Warwick Student Union. They have a few venues. They've got the Dirty Duck, which is kind of like a pub. They do karaoke there. They've got the Copper Rooms, which is kind of like your standard nightclub type thing. And then they've got the Terrace Bar, which is kind of like a student bar that overlooks the main plaza area. And that's like the Warwick nightlife on the Warwick campus. And then when you move away from the campus, you can either go to a town which is nearby called Leamington Spa, or you can go the other direction into Coventry. And I guess you can also go onto Birmingham, but it's quite far and it's quite expensive, so I don't tend to go that far.
And what is the club in Warwick?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I would say I quite like Casbah, which is in Coventry. Other people have said Smack and Neon, which is in Leamington Spa. There's quite a lot of nightlife. It's kind of cheesy nightlife. Think noughties, bubbleology, nightlife. I'm not sure.
And with Warwick, are there your basic shops, or have you got a good variety of shops? Is it loads of shops, or just your necessities?
Yeah, so from a first year's point of view, you've got to remember that the campus itself is really big. So there's a lot of accommodation spread over a large area. There are probably two places you can shop. One of them is the on-campus grocery store, which is slightly expensive, if I'm being completely honest, but a really good, convenient option if you want to get lunch, or maybe if you run out of stuff in the middle of the night, that's always open. The second option is a shopping centre called Cannon Park. It's got a wide variety of shops. There's an Aldi, there's a Tesco, there's a Wilko, a Boots. There's not a Superdrug. There is a post office. You know, it's a small sort of out of town mall sort of thing. It's quite good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if we go into food, are there a lot of restaurants, food shops, or is it again you're basic, your Nando's, your McDonald's, or have you got like local shops that are like good variety of food?
So the closest place to Warwick is a town on the outskirts of Coventry called Canley. If you're looking to eat out, there's not much there other than takeaways. If you want to properly go for a sit-down meal, you're probably better off either going into Coventry or Leamington Spa. In Leamington Spa, there's the Nando's, the Prezzo's, all of the rest of like the standard restaurants. If you go into Coventry, there's a place called the Glass House, which is a bit more upmarket. There's also a Pizza Hut. There's probably like a wider variety in Coventry, but Leamington Spa is sort of closer on the bus. But yeah, you can go get a meal if you really want to. There's places nearby.
So although you did just finish your first year, what general advice would you give to people about to start? Would you give to students about to start university in general?
Ooh, don't underestimate the course. That's a boring thing to say. Sometimes it's easy to get wrapped up in the like nightlife of the place, which is good and it's an aspect of it. But if you're going to uni this year, Of all years, I don't really think there's going to be much nightlife, although I'm not really sure about what it's going to look like at the end of this year. But try not to get distracted. Think about your course first and foremost, but also make sure you make like good connections and good friends, because these people who you're living with, you're going to be sort of really close, and you'll be friends for 3 years, probably, maybe 4 if you do a master's. You'll be living with them, cooking with them. You might be like sleeping in a room next door to them. You know, they're good people to get on with. And I guess being positive as well. Always be positive is a good thing.
And what advice would you give to students about to study at Warwick?
Enjoy it, really. The other way, I'd say probably the course is probably going to be a really big demand, because all of the courses at Warwick are probably quite time intensive. It's a Russell Group university, but make sure you have time to do stuff you like. So for me, that means joining a few societies, going out with my friends, maybe going for a meal once in a while, and just settle into living. Really, it's for most people, it's the first time that you've lived away from parents, and it's really good to be like independent and plan your own day and like see what works for you. So I think that's advice that I'd give.
And finally, what advice would you give to students about to study your course?
Ooh, don't be intimidated. That's a good one. maths is always going to be a really competitive course, which is good because it means everything happens fast and everyone's competing and there's a great rivalry in the room. But then on the other hand, it can be really intimidating. And when you're sort of sat there as one of the only people in your sixth form to do maths from a really small sixth form, and you've got people around you who've had parents of parents of parents going to like Warwick, Cambridge, Oxford to study maths, it can feel intimidating. But just know that like you've done exactly the same stuff as them. You've done your A levels, you've done your step, you've got your maths and your further maths. You deserve to be there as much as anyone else. And I think this notion of outsiderness is something that's really difficult to get rid of. But once you do, it means you're sort of really powerful and well respected on your course, which is something that you can really sort of enjoy. It feels, once you're in sort of this club, it feels really great to be part of this exclusive course that you're studying. And it can really open doors for you in the future, whilst you're having a great time studying something that you inevitably love.
And so, in your first year, did you join any societies?
Yeah, I joined a few societies. I joined FilmSoc. FilmSoc was a really good society. They showed films every week for £3, which I think is really great value. And I also joined Doctor Who Soc. They had showings once weekly on a Friday of old Doctor Who's, which is something that was really niche to me. There's obviously the standard ones that quite a lot of other people will like to join. We've got like a Quidditch team. There's a Pride Soc. There's like the liberation communities. There's political groups, but there's also like really odd stuff. So like the Doctor Who Society. I think we've got a pole dancing society. God, what else?
That's fine.
Yeah,
there's a lot. There's lots of societies. And
yeah.
Can you tell us about your freshers?
Oh, I can tell you what I remember of my freshers. Yeah, freshers at Warwick is an odd one, because it's not called freshers, as I'm sure it's not at most unis. It's called Welcome Week. Lots of the events on campus are really heavily controlled by the Warwick Student Union. That's the Warwick SU. And people arrive on different dates. So I missed a lot of the main parties because my accommodation moving in date was a Sunday instead of a Friday, for example. But I think one thing to remember about freshers is have fun, meet people, and make sure you try things outside of the bubble. Get outside of the Warwick bubble, meaning go to Coventry, go to Warwick Castle, go clubbing in Leamington Spa, even though it's a stereotypically second, third and fourth year location. Go there. It's a fun thing to do. It's boring if you just sit at the student union every night for a week. Like, get out there, you know?
Hey. So you chose to go to university over going right into an apprenticeship slash right into work. Why did you make that choice?
So for me, it's really simple. I wanted to do maths for a few years because I really love maths, but then I wanted to move into banking and investment, M&A, and finance, which is great. It's a great career. I think I'll really enjoy it. It's really fast paced, like my course that I'm doing at the moment that I enjoy. But it also means that there's not really that many apprenticeships and a degree apprenticeships to go round. They're all very highly competitive, and they're contested not just by people in England, they're contested by people across the EMEA area, which is Europe, Middle East, and Africa, all for a job in London. And I just thought that it was not realistic to put all my eggs in that basket before I've even got a degree. Yeah, but for other subjects and for people interested in other things, it obviously does make sense. For example, if you're doing something like a business management degree, I know that there's a plethora of options if you want to do like a business management course coupled with like consultancy in the city. There's really easy ways to get around and do that. And if that's something that you enjoy, definitely go do it. But for me, I think the most realistic option was to have fun and do a degree for a couple of years and then go into the world of work.
Okay. So at this point, we let students kind of have what I like to call a free for all, where you could just say what you like, advice, motivation, just literally you can say what you can put your ats, Instagrams, LinkedIn's, Facebook, literally the floor is yours.
Oh, yeah. For the people going to Warwick, it's a really career-orientated uni. I think their business school is probably like the first in the country. I'm not really sure, but as much as there's like lots of different factions to do with careers, don't get bogged down. Like, have fun, go out there. Warwick is a university that is quite controversial at the moment, but if you do happen to go there, don't get bogged down by what people think of you. Have fun, make friends, join teams, go to societies, enjoy your course, talk to people. Talking to people is great. I go to Warwick, and there's a stereotype that all of the people in Warwick are people who are from the London area. It's not true. There's many, many students from across the world at Warwick, and talking to people at Warwick is a great thing to do. Making friends, enjoying conversation, debating even. Debating is a great thing. Join the debating society. Do it. But yeah, I would say that just have fun, because that's the main point of uni. You can go to uni and you can be like, oh, I'm going for the course, I'm going for the career. But ultimately, why are you going for the course? Why are you going for the career? To enjoy it. You're going to have fun. That is what you should do in life. You should just always go out to have fun, be that through meeting people, a career, or a course. And to me, that really makes sense. And to most people at Warwick, it really makes sense. But it might not seem that way at first. So I would just say, talk to people and discuss things. And I think you'll find that you have more in common than you sort of think you do.
Hey, so if you want to end the video saying, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'm plugged in.
Okay, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and I am plugged in.
Amazing. Thank you.